I'm visiting everybody's favorite compound. On one side, it's a bleak disaster. On the other side, welcome to LKQ, our favorite local overpriced pickup parts. Wow, the color on this Prius, are you serious? Okay, they got a really nice flake in there, huh? I gotta get a different job. This one's been here since a month and a half ago. I am here for the windshield clips because after 8 months of trying, I just couldn't. And look at that, it's the old D-Jet. K-Jet? C, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. I think so, first year of that, amazing. I wonder if I should pull some of the fuel distributor parts from it for my 75. This one's a 74. Still largely here. Let's see what's hiding under the... Wow, nice, thank you. Dang, somebody was really working on it here. Lots of parts. Somebody went through them. Cleaned out the toolboxes. Probably working as far as we know, because these are usually replaced as part of the frustrating diagnostics of why won't my car start? Oh, I dropped the washer, but I found the key. Let's see. Oh, nice. Yep, I did something good. I feel proud of myself. Yes. Hello? This is a really nice windshield. So I'm taking it. Didn't expect that to happen today. I better go get one of them wheelbarrows. And that is the bottom windshield heater element. Because there's a defroster wire that runs. No, actually it was an antenna. It runs up through here, and we're not going to be taking that today because the wires are deteriorated. There's really little hope for it to work. Let's see if we can get this thing mounted in our little basket. Extraction time was like 10 to 15 seconds per clip because I'm getting pretty good at this. Nice. And it looks like the windshield's been replaced before. Some of these clips were fresh silver versus the original more rusty or paint colored ones. Because it looks like cars, these were painted with the clips already installed. Mark my words, I'm buying one of these one day. The bubble van. Look at this thing. It's the Starship Voyager inside. These are captain's chairs. They will swing around. Double sunroof in the 90s. Mid-engine, all-wheel drive, supercharged. Some even had a manual transmission. I can't even with this thing. It's just so cool. I'll be seeing you soon. Wow, this one's got a spoiler. That's kind of rare. Nice. This is an 82 with a moonroof, 4-door, but I'm of the opinion here that, besides the fact that they're labeling everything individually because they're so excited to be raising prices on us, I'm of the opinion that the brown interiors age better than the rest. Look at this, not so bad, you know? I need that glove box, but it's faded. And then here, thesun.com. At least we have hardworking folks here that'll clean this up because, oh boy. You wanna know why our prices are so high? But hey, I got a windshield for like 50 bucks. That's amazing. Loaded up, padded up under all the blankets. Now I'm gonna follow my nose right to this food truck. Oh boy. Yes, this is why you gotta keep cash on you. Heck yeah, dude. you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I have zero tolerance for rust because I know what it's gonna do long term, and I think the whole point of a restoration is make it last long term. Volvo didn't do much sealing here under the hood. You see all my grinding marks. I got most of the rust off, and the rest I'll go through with sandpaper. But they didn't really put much compound between these layers. Now, the reason I like Volvo is that they actually had really good quality paint, and if the car is sprayed thoroughly enough, or even dipped in some cases, I don't know which cases, then you have enough rust protection for majority of things. Now, we've seen how the windshields, especially like in episode 5, the windshield goes pretty bad in some climates, especially if you just let leaves sit on it. Around the windshield trim is another big problem for these cars, but here, the gaps of the hoods for all years of the 164 have just bothered me. There's not sealing compound in there, more than they, I guess, put just to like stop it from rattling in a few places. There's a little bit there. Where else can I find sealing compound? It's possible that there's actually like a bead around each of these as they're pressed together, but I don't know. I don't know. That's all I'm seeing. Okay, I'm also seeing a few spots I gotta go over again, but this is gonna get a blanket on it, and I'll show you that once it arrives in the mail a few days from now. And this car, hopefully the hood is sealed. Let's see. You know, we can kind of peek inside. They told me they put some seam sealer on each of those parts. So here's hoping. Fingers are crossing. Back to it. We got a pattern made up of all the holes here. And now it's time to transfer that onto our fiberglass sheet. Well, so much for that idea. I got shorted about 8 inches on the width that they cut. So looks like I'll be reaching for a refund. Bummer. All right, let's try the hood thing one more time. I've got my 3 big panels mocked up. We'll just double those up and put them here on our pad. This is from Mercedes R107. I think that's like the 560 SL Roadsters. They have pretty big engine bays, but they're actually a little bit smaller than the Volvo one here. How about that, right? The old pad that we were using is a fiberglass mat, and they refunded us for this order, which is great, but I don't really like fiberglass. It gets itchy. This one's a much nicer foam pad. Mercedes glues theirs on. So this side is for the glue adhesive, and this is the show side. We'll transfer these patterns on and see if we have enough material to just fill in the insides. If I was to overlay it on top and do my initial method, which was take a Lincoln or a Cadillac 2-inch square clip, stick it in here, and then use these like Audi fender clips on the outside, and then just sort of holds it in place. It could work, you know, we've got enough holes in the middle here, but the problem was with the Mercedes mat being a little bit smaller and time constraints, I also don't really know how to fill this hole in. And then it has like this area from here to here where it would drape. So I could do clips and glue, but there's a lot of like cues involved. And also the hood, the way it bows in like that, a nice rounded shape. This is the low point, this is the high point, and that's the low point. I didn't want to have like a bubble, you know? Oh, nice. This is fitting barely. I had to really jigsaw it, but one of the tricks about, one of the mistakes that you can make without even realizing with this sort of thing is make sure you have the correct orientation for which side is up, because you'll make a template and you'll just put it next to it and go, all right, let's cut this out. And then you bring it up here and you're like, oh, I cut backwards and it's the gray side. So you got to mirror it, which means you got to flip the pieces. I think that makes sense. It's like arts and crafts, you know, we're just big kids. They're little toys. Our steering box has an inlet and an outlet port, and I think the measurements are M14 for the small boy, and the big one looked like it was an M16. We have a drain plug, which is like $4 locally. It's got the rubber plug, and the way that I filled the box was, since we have our tray over it right now, there's still access to these holes here. I got a little carried away and I didn't plug them before I installed this whole thing, and it can come out, but it's going to be a bit of a process. So I just put the hose in on the rear hole and then on the front hole, and fed them with a little bit of Lucas stop leak, which is compatible with most power steering fluids, and diluted it a bit with power steering fluid, and then I just sort of used the bottle to act as my squeeze in and squeeze out. So I put these down into the holes. As I filled them up, once it started to show the fluid from where I could see it at my vantage point up there, I relaxed the bottle, and that sort of siphoned back a lot of the fluid until it dropped just below the level of this piece here. So I knew that I was filled up but not over full, because if we overfill, it could pop a seal, you know, as the temperature goes up and down on that gearing. But it's not going to really happen too much because we're just dealing with ambient temps now. But you know, in the summer it could happen, so just want to make sure we're not overfilling it. All right, we'll install these plugs, and hopefully there's no drama ever again with this box. Plug number 1 installed beautifully, and that's part number 653136. That's an M14 plug, and I think it was advertised for a Honda. M16 on the larger plug there. Nice. First time doing one of these windshields and having an assistant, big help. Thanks, Nat. So this is a lot of goo, and it used an entire bottle and a half to do the front. I over applied because I didn't want any chance of it going through, but it's a very clear indicator here through those lines where the air is and where the seal is. I'm gonna go through and get really messy now and just try to compact all of it. We've evened our gaps from here to here, there to there, and the windshield's, there's a measurement on where it should sit. Let's see. The book says the windshield should lie 1 to 1.5 millimeter from the outer edge of the body, the outer plane of the windshield. That's using a special fixture that they have to install the glass, but you want to do 2 laps of the glue and have it be 18 to 21 millimeters in width around the windshield, measured from the outer edge. I did a little too much, but that's because it's my first time and I'm not using any special equipment. 1 to 1.5 millimeter from the outer edge to the body, huh? The important thing, the most important thing, these rubber spacers here on the bottom. And the bottom is also where I prioritize the goo. Look at all that, yuck. I gotta go in and clean it up. And we have really smooth, just do something like this. Get a nice edge on it. And also to protect our surfaces from any moisture. And then clean up the clips here because we don't want them to be compromised. As far as depth, I don't know how flush it needs to be because I don't want to sink it too deep against the body. And if it sits too high up, then the trim is going to be in the way. But this goo remains pliable, which means, yeah, like this side's sitting a little higher than the other side, so I can put a little bit of even pressure. I'll clean my fingies first. 1 millimeter from the outer edge, I presume that is, you're measuring this guy here and take out a plane, and we see if it's about 1 millimeter shy of this feller. So kind of a rough measurement, but it gives us some idea here. And it's plus or minus 1.5, meaning it's it could be 0.5 millimeters higher than this surface, or it could be 2.5 millimeters sunk. So there's that. I'm just trying to get it to look level and be flush, knowing that that's more or less the spot it needs to be at. And as I'm going around and gooping and smoothing and transferring some goop from areas that are too heavy and too shallow, I'm also having to remeasure and reposition certain areas. To reposition it, you know, with the goop, it's pretty simple. You just flat hand and then push very broad areas of it. I can put a hand here and here and put some body weight against that to get this bottom portion to sit in. The rubber spacers, very important and very useful because it's kept all of our distances where they need to be. I think the windshield's a little bit more towards that side than this side, looking at the gaps on some of these clips. But it's also important that you seal the clips before you put the windshield, because you can see there's very little room in here for the clips to function. I'm gonna have to clean out the goo to get those arms open again, because I've put a lot. But then I look at this and I think, oh man, water's gonna get in there somehow. So we really want fresh clips, sealed, signed, delivered. Let's go. hole that we're working with in the car is 145 millimeters. You can translate that to the Canadian system as much as you want. I'm just going by the smallest possible digits with my measuring tool here. The fog light itself without any gasket is 140.1, so we got like 4.9 millimeters of difference. The gasket, when you add that to there, it makes it 143.3, although it is an old, really worn out gasket, so it still gives you like 2 millimeters of wiggle room, right? Just about. So I needed to shave this down because it measured 147.7. I needed to shave it down to like 7 millimeters to get it to match. Okay, this is so dumb, but I had to use a cheese grater to get this thing down to size. This gasket, it's chunky, right? It's, you know, tractor stuff, so it's real thick because it's meant to be inside of a housing that's designed for the right size, and we're stretching it. So I thought maybe with the stretch it was gonna fit, but it's in there and it's so tight that as I'm tightening the nut on the back here, it's threatening to break the glass. I could hear it going, chick, 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 and I'm like, oh no, don't do it. Because the first thing you hear is the warning signs. Anyway, I cut off a lip on the inside, which is the chunky extra ledge there. Still gave us too big of a thing, too big of a gasket. I needed to shave it down 4.4 millimeters. And that's where the cheese grater comes in, because a regular file ain't gonna do it. A razor blade's not very accurate, because you'll start digging into the thing and then oops, next thing you know, you've got this really awkward, ugly cut. Now a cheese grater isn't really a pretty cut itself, but it's something to get it down a little bit to size, and then the rest of that smoothing out I can do with some sandpaper or a file, whatever we got, but let's just check our fitment. Hey, what do you know? It looks pretty good, huh? And look at that, nice clean edge, because 220 grit sandpaper was more than plenty. The metal here is really thin, and then it goes to like medium thickness, but then here on this side, it's like medium thick here and medium thick there. Wow, so they actually have it kind of asymmetrical on the nose entirely for those headlights. There's actually a tilt to the housings here for the lights. I guess they wanted to keep them focused on the, I don't know, are they pointing this way generally? So there's a little bit of adjustment on the bracket side here just to go up and down. Looking good now. We can move on to the other side and then I can retire the cheese grater. Don't tell my roommate. Actually do it now. It doesn't matter months later. Survey says start with 180, 220, work your way up to 600, as high as 1500. We're doing a sand by hand. You want to know how to stay warm in the winter? It's cold, hard manual labor. We do it like men. We work it out.
Here's the thing. I have OCD. You know, I'm very organized. I like things clean. I like things in their place. I also don't like saying thank you, so I'd rather people not do things for me just so I don't have to say thank you. They all, oh, hey, can we do the dishes? Can we help clean up? No.
Looks good in some places, but right here where we had some deep scratches, they went through the anodizing, and that means we've got to strip the anodizing off of this bumper. Plan B, and by B, I mean oven. After an hour, I hit it with some sandpaper, rinsed it, and then my second bit of sanding here has shown me it's getting darker, which means we're getting through the anodizing, and we're getting into the aluminum. Let's clean it. You'll see just how shiny and flat it is underneath. Once I wipe it from this, I'll be able to look underneath and find out what scars are left, scratches, nicks, etc. Deep spots here are being stubborn. This part gets covered up to about here, which is good. This is what shows in the front as you move forward and the tail turn signal clears. You can kind of see the shape of it here. It's the water that does all this damage here, and that's why the fronts are so bad. Because there's so much water getting into those pieces. And then there's like 2, 3 different materials. You've got the aluminum, and you've got these like galvanized steel brackets, and all the rubber. The rubber just traps the water in there with these guys in the middle. So that's a shame. But stripping the anodizing has made it very easy. These were pretty bad before here. They've cleaned up a little bit. Okay, this side I haven't wiped yet, but you see how it gets dirty, and that's good, I suppose. Means the material's coming off. Good old 3M sandpaper up to task here. Okay, that side's looking nice. There's a few spots here I wanted to check, and yeah, okay. Right here, you see the unevenness? It's a little spotty. I'm gonna go over that, make sure it's really good. And then I'm curving the corners, you may have noticed in the time lapse, to make sure that the gradient matches. It doesn't yet, but it gets pretty close here. Oh, it's so tempting to go mirror finish, you know? Go up to 1200, 2000, and then polish it. Like, so good. It's really doable. But I want to match the rear bumper because the rear is great. It doesn't need all this work. It's just the front got all the rock chips and gravel dips over the years. 2 hours of sanding. Most of the stuff is out. You can see where, well, I've said that too many times. 2 hours later. Ooh, don't go anywhere. Whew. With these tiny screws, you get something stripping out on you. So it's off to the taps we go. Right into the chrome housing there. Bumper's almost ready, and I will be cleaning up these little clips here, attaching the little ends of the bumper, and then I can go on the car. Also, it's clear coated. Since we sanded through the anodizing, needed to protect the aluminum from moisture. Back windows are installed. I'm gonna probably put some sealer in there if they fail the waterproof test. But they're in with the trim. One of the pieces, the bottom piece will go on in a second. Well, front end is coming together. Got the front black piece repainted, cleaned up the rubber, resealed it, put the hardware in. And now it's time to add the bumper.